Yeah!
I don't know, man. I mean, it's so celebratory. I feel like they don't know if the podcast is going to be good yet, and we're already screaming and happy.
I can promise this one's going to be good.
I know. This one's a fucking guarantee. This one's a guarantee. First, before we even get into this, I want to thank Mr. Collie Park for putting together this intro for our podcast. It's crazy because he's worked, obviously, with Outkast and all these Atlanta things, and then 3 Jewish kids ask him for a theme music, and he's like...
Not very snappish, but...
No, I mean, if you can listen close, there's a snap, though. There it was. There it was. By the way, Mr. Collie Park did not do it. No. Our friend Greg did. It's not Mr. Collie Park. Listen, dudes, this is a big deal for all of us because we like the internets. And if you're into the internets and you're into hip-hop, you know our guest.
Yeah.
I feel like we kind of watched it go from a dude who one day opened just a blog, and then everyone was sort of like, this is really interesting. And then it was like, oh, fuck, this is really interesting. It went from something where it's like, oh, this dude's got stories to this is the only person with stories in all of hip-hop. There's no one who beats it.
Wow.
Our guest is Combat Jack.
What's up, internets? How y'all doing?
Man, listen, dude, as sort of a guy from L.A., these guys obviously are here.
Are you born and raised in L.A.?
Oh, I never left. Yeah,
okay.
This is the first time I've ever been out. No, I've lived there my whole life.
Right.
So the stories that I hear sort of from you in this sort of stout era, this Dame Dash era, reading these things on the internet over the past, year and a half, has been pretty epic.
Yeah.
Thanks, man.
We've all become fan. I mean, I've been a fan, and I know immediately when it happened, it was one of those things where we all emailed each other and we're like, what is
that
this
Dame
real?
Dash article really?
That's the one that kind of broke the dam. You know, I have a lot of stories, and I remember like just trying to decide which ones I should put together. And I always knew that the Damon Dash story was the most explosive.
Yeah.
And so I guess the particular time that I decided to write it, I guess it was a Friday in March.
Yeah.
I was like, fuck it, let me just write it. So I wrote it, and you know, the thing about coming from the music industry and being very public, and then leaving the music industry and not being very public, and then now speaking through the internet, through this alias, through Combat Jack, was initially it was kind of like I'm kind of writing from this angle of anonymity.
Sure.
So it was like a sense
definitely
of,
at first.
it was definitely comfort.
Yeah.
That I could write, and sometimes I would actually throw extra shots, because particularly when I was writing with Byron Crawford.
Yeah,
I kind of like had that freedom to throw shots.
Well, I mean, he created the shot.
Exactly. So when I wrote the Dame Dash piece, I kind of really went in and didn't know how it would resonate.
Yeah, well.
And then my wife and I took our kids that Friday to a trip to D.C. So I was like totally disconnected from the internet. And then I think I checked my email and saw all of the responses that I had gotten, and I fucking got scared, dude. I was like, oh shit, like you know, because some one of my closest friends said, yo, you kind of went in heavy on Dame, and I didn't feel that I went in heavy on Dame, but a lot of people said, or some people felt.
I thought you. To be honest with you, I thought you kind of said some things at the end where you're just like, the guy's a nice guy,
and that's what I was saying.
It has nothing to do with whether or not he's a good dude. This is the story that unfolded,
exactly,
and how he sort of got shafted.
But you know this medium, and this medium, it's like, you know, anything can be taken out of proportion. Any sentence, you know, like Kid Cudi, Wale, I don't fuck with you musically. I mean, so it's all about context and the perspective from where the readers, you know. And so I was pretty like shook. I was shook that weekend.
Yeah,
I was like, oh shit, I didn't expect. But then afterwards, like the general response that I got was like, yo, this shit is dope.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay.
And so just so people who don't know necessarily your background, really quick, I think what Jeff, Eric, and I like most about it is that you went from sort of this analog hip-hop world, which you came up in, and then now it's all digital, and you're one of the guys, industry-wise, I can't think of too many other people who've done the transition as well.
Right. That was by accident.
Yeah, I mean, Elliot maybe? I mean, there's a handful of people maybe that I could just say like, oh, digitally, they're relevant.
They get it, yeah.
And there's very little. So just give a quick background as far as like your history in law, obviously, and how they got into hip-hop, and then we'll get into what you're doing right now.
Okay, first generation hip hop, born and raised in Brooklyn. Like I was like in a freshman year in high school. Somebody gave me a mixtape, the Grandmaster Flash and Furious 5. And I was like, oh shit! This is like, I'm talking about before a rap record. Like you can imagine. I don't know if you can even imagine going from like R&B, soul, rock and roll, and disco, and then hearing motherfuckers rhyme. It was like, oh shit, whatever the fuck I do for the rest of my life, I've got to do this shit.
Right.
You know, so like I was a freshman in college. Eventually went to Cornell University.
Nice.
I was a fine arts student. didn't want to come back to Brooklyn and be a fucking broke bum.
Right.
So I decided I would go to law school. Got into Georgetown.
Wow.
Great.
Hated law school. I fucking hated law school, and I hated DC. Hated DC because they didn't at the time. This was towards the late '80s. Hip hop really wasn't big in DC.
Yeah, you came from the epicenter.
Exactly,
Yeah.
and it was kind of like I lived firsthand like the rivalry that was going on between New York and DC at the time, and I had a lot of friends from Brooklyn that were in the drug trade. And DC was like one of the territories where they figured they'd go down and just take over.
No, we watched The Wire.
But DC motherfuckers bang. You know what I mean? So it was like, so it got to a point where, and I digress, but it'd get to a point like if I was talking about how they could have a crackhead for a mayor. You know? Or if I was talking about the Redskins, motherfuckers would try to hem me up and try to fight just on that. Just the random people. That's how deep and strong the DC pride is. So anyway,
even if you were saying something nice about the Redskins,
exactly. So I hated law. I had a miserable experience in law school, and I was like, whatever the fuck I do, I got to do what I heard.
Yeah,
right.
A couple of years
home.
ago.
Yeah.
Get back to New York. Took the bar, and then I had a cousin who was a general manager of Uptown Records.
Okay.
And I didn't know anything about Uptown Records. All I knew about Uptown Records was a couple of years ago, Andre Harrell was one of my favorite rappers.
Yeah.
Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
So, carrying the bag.
So I had no idea. Like Russell was like the epicenter of this whole like music industry thing. Like he was the only fucking dude doing it. Like in terms of, oh shit, this shit is happening.
Yeah.
You know. So my cousin's now general manager at Uptown, and I'm fucking ringing his bell every day. Like, dude. And he's an attorney. He went to Columbia. So I'm like, dude, you gotta help me. You gotta help me. One day he calls me. He says, yo, there's like an unpaid position. There's this new lawyer that's running the legal department at Def Jam.
Wow.
Would you take it? I was like, pew.
It's a done deal.
Didn't give a fuck about the check or anything. I was there. And we're talking about 1989, so we're talking Public Enemy era.
Yeah.
We're talking about, Russell going through his divorce with Rick Rubin, and the Beastie Boys were really pushing Third Base as his next white. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Funny, we were too.
Yeah. Slick Rick coming off of the whole Great Adventures of, and then LL Cool J working on, at the time LL was done.
Yeah.
LL was literally done. Like he had 3.
Like today.
Exactly.
Stop Rock and Roll Hall of Fame nominations.
But worse then, because LL, I think, from a music perspective now, has admirably run his course. But back then, 3 records in, he was so cocky that it was pure hate for dude. It was like you know what I'm saying? Like I'm not sure if you guys love or hate Lil B, but like the people that hate Lil B hate Lil B. Like at the time, LL was really Public Enemy #1, so no one even expected him to come out with his greatest album after that. So worked at Def Jam for a brief period of time, and then decided to I got canned because I went and took the bar the second time, took a couple of weeks off, came back to work, and they were like, dude, your boss got fired, so you're out. You know what I mean? So took a couple of months land. Now I had Def Jam on the resume.
Yeah,
great.
I mean that's the most, and that's one thing. Like you younger internets, I will definitely tell you, whatever path you take, man, even it's the shittiest position or shittiest type of situation you could be in, man, walk away with that on your resume. Walk away with that on your resume.
Yeah, so, which is why I have It's the Real on my resume.
Yeah.
Well, the real is official though. I mean, you guys are really official. So.
That should be your drop.
Yeah, right.
Combat Jack, you guys are official.
But for real, like I'm really honored that you guys said that you were fans of mine. But I'm fans of yours. I think
cool.
I think once I sent you guys a tweet like, I want to be down a couple of months ago. So really, I am fans of you guys.
Appreciate it.
So going
It's
back
mutual.
to the story, thank you.
Yeah.
Landed this position at a small solo practitioner who had years of experience in the music industry, but she came from the jazz, like 70s jazz to R&B era, and she kind of knew that the tides were turning and she had to get her hands involved in rap.
Right.
So she hired me, I'm the first attorney that she ever hired, and she trained. And she was her name is Louise West. And Louise West, black woman from Washington, D.C., who is a pioneer amongst black entertainment attorneys. And there's an association called BESLA, Black Entertainment and Sports Lawyers Association, which is now celebrating its 30th year.
Wow.
And she's one of the founders. So I kind of walked into the situation, her office was on 57th and Broadway. I walked into the situation not knowing what her legacy was, and I was like, oh shit, I landed into something really valuable. You know? From there, we started picking up hip-hop clients. So I started doing what I was hired to do.
Right.
One of our first clients were Derek Angeletti and Ron Lawrence, who were rappers at the time.
Good.
Yeah.
They were Two Kings in the Cypher. They were my official first rap deal that I ever did.
Wow.
That's great.
And, you know, who foresaw that Derek and Ron would later become like the building blocks for the Hitmen.
Yeah.
Puffy's legendary production hit squad. So like literally the stars are aligning and I'm just like moving and everything's connecting. Mm-hmm. One of our other first deals working with Louise was the whole Dash situation.
Right.
One of her, because she's so political, she's from DC, and then she knows everyone like in corporate like music America, everyone like her and Sylvia Rohn were like are like buds, like they're like on each other's like speed dial. So
hold on, Sylvia Rohn's calling me.
Yeah.
Okay, we're cool. I'm gonna go straight to message.
Until I say what up.
Okay, I'm having to
so one of her associates like, look, two of my nephews, they're dabbling in rap, and I know, I don't know what the fuck this rap thing is, but maybe you do. She's like, I'll take him. It was Damon Dash and Darian Dash. I think at the time, Darian was a student at USC out west.
Go Trojans.
And
alma mater.
And Dame was just trying to figure his way through life in the streets of Harlem.
Well, Darian was into the internet or something, right?
Well, at the time, I think Darian was most definitely a proponent of the internet. Like, I'd hear him talk. I'm like, motherfucker, you're crazy. What the fuck are you talking? Because who could foresee? I'm coming from a brick and mortar experience. And you're talking about everything.
So the cousin found the internet possibly, and Damon found Memphis Bleak. So it's pretty even.
Right.
It's pretty even. We're about the same.
It balances out, right?
Yeah,
so like they were annoying because like these guys were full of themselves and they just like together, like Damon talks very fast and Darian talks very fast, and then they would both talk very fast at you, and they would always trip me up, and I would always end up feeling like the asshole, even though I know that they were the asshole.
Yeah. Well, we're three white kids who love hip hop, so I'm pretty sure we're gonna stick on this Rockefeller story for almost the whole time.
Right. Yeah.
So when they come to you, they don't have anything.
Well, they had come across two groups that they started managing, and they needed attorneys to draft their management.
And who's that?
The Future Sound, which was like some obscure random hip hop group, in today's rap history books.
And the Young Guns.
No, not the Young Guns. Original Flavor.
Which was great. And they kind of hit in a sense.
And at Ski Beats.
Ski Beats,
right. And this is how it's coming together. I didn't know Clark Kent at the time. Clark was an A&R at East West Records, which was a division of Elektra.
Yeah. Right.
And he was running the whole rap department. He decided to sign Original Flavor and Future Sound. So this was his introduction to Damon and Darian and Ski. And at the time, I guess Clark was coming off of signing Das Effects. He'd signed a couple of other groups, and he signed Original Flavor and Future Sound. And at the time, his boss was incidentally Sylvia Rohn. She was like, "Motherfucker, you're not signing any more rap groups." So he was precluded from. He was cut off from being able to sign the main person that he wanted to sign at the time, which was Jay-Z.
Right.
So he's like, "Dame, you know what? I can't get this guy in the system at the moment, but I like the job you're doing with the Future Sound and with the Original Flavor. I like your hustle. You need to manage this dude." So that's like the whole kind of like.
Where was Biggs at the time?
Biggs, I don't know where Biggs was at the time. I didn't know. Biggs came in like, at least from where I sat. Several years later when they decided to go on their own and launch Rockefeller, they were like, we have a third partner named Biggs and he has a bag of money.
All right.
And that was his deal, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
it was
like
Facebook.
At least I don't know. I mean, I guess intimately maybe he had a more significant role, but I just saw him as the third guy that came on at the last, on the last day with a big satchel of
right.
And so Dame is always the brash, the just, I mean, very forward guy to be really nice about it, right?
Always brash. And once again, going back to that piece that I wrote about Dame, and what I admire about Dame is, at the time, like, Dame just forced, like, he wanted a clothing line. He wanted the label
at that time.
Way
ahead
of
its time.
He was like,
right.
he rocked, like, dude, like Jay-Z hadn't even come out yet. He's like, dude, I need you to incorporate Rockaware.
Wow.
It's like, all right, you're tripping, dude. You're moving too fast.
Especially where Jay-Z was coming from.
Exactly.
Jay-Z was a street rapper in that first record. I mean, I don't think he saw commercial commercial wasn't that important.
Right.
Well, no, he couldn't even get signed.
He couldn't get signed.
Yeah, it's not important.
But the thing about, and I never really understood at the time, I can admittedly say that I didn't understand the awe in which Damon and Clark were under with regard to Jay-Z, because they would always come in and be like, yo, I don't understand why no one's signing this guy, because he's the best fucking MC on the planet.
Right.
I'm like, dude, I don't get it.
They were all Jim Jones fans. That's
right. Yeah.
Wait, so when Dame comes in
and
he's pitching these things, original flavor and future sound is his main focus, or that's the main focus that Clark and everyone is pushing towards? Or is Jay-Z, is he just yelling about Jay-Z?
Jay-Z was just like Dame was probably 17 or 18.
Mm-hmm.
He had just done his 2 deals. He and Darian now, as teenagers, are running around with arguably like $250,000 cash in their pockets.
Right.
So they just want to take over the world.
Right.
So I think the focus was at the time Dash management.
Okay.
Not Jay-Z. Like I think over the years, like over like 2 or 3 years, as they developed Jay-Z, they were like, dude, we need to get this guy signed. So yeah. Answering your question, I guess as their relationship grew,
it grew as well. But when they first come in, it's original flavor and future sound.
It's original flavor and future sound.
And the Damon Dash who comes in, is this the Damon Dash who has a dance and the Cristal? I mean,
but this is the Damon Dash that would not be caught dead. I'm not joking.
Yeah.
Would not be caught dead riding the subway.
That was a great part of the article.
He would not be caught dead riding the subway. And I don't know if that's like an uptown thing, because growing up in Brooklyn, there's kind of like this subtle uptown Brooklyn rivalry, and the thing
like
that,
the Warriors.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing that I find like funny styles, well, not funny styles, but just different with regard to uptown cats, is they just want to stunt extra hard.
Right.
That's
like
how we do.
Yeah.
Right. Jeff and Eric.
This is South Harlem.
Straight stunting.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So that was his thing. Like, and eventually when the monies ran out from those deals, and because the industry is naturally valleys and peaks. So when he'd be in the valleys and he had absolutely no monies, he'd be like, yo, let me borrow some money because I need to get in a cab from Midtown. I cannot ride the subway.
Man.
So that was his
I mean, and I feel like that was that era, though. I feel like Puffy would fake it till he made it, too. I feel like it was
totally.
It was just like they're not going to be caught dead doing that shit.
Yeah, you know what? Yeah, but the thing about Puffy, and because I watched him from day one also, and the thing about Puffy is, other than like, contrary to like a lot of these other executives or like Uber executives or producers, Puffy was kind of groomed to do or to become who he became
by
Harrell and by Russell.
Oh, wow.
Because Andre and Russell are like best friends.
Right.
Yeah.
They've always been.
On Facebook?
Probably.
No, MySpace.
MySpace, probably.
Closer on MySpace.
But
Top 4.
So wherever you would see Russell and Andre, you would see a young Puff.
Mm-hmm.
And, motherfuckers would be jealous. Like, yo, why is he in that position?
Right.
Why is like, he's going to blow the fuck up.
Right.
Because you're like, dude, you're fucking being groomed in front of everybody.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So,
so you're saying he had a reason?
he had a reason. Like,
Dame did not.
Dude had a reason. But I can't say he had a valid. I mean, it was just it just made more sense.
Yeah,
So,
he was throwing these parties and shit and gyms and stuff, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, okay.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Another guy from DC at that time, right? He went down to Howard.
Exactly.
But when Dame comes in, this is like a sort of like a nepotism thing. Like you're being like you're sort of like taking a courtesy interview with him or doing his aunt a favor. Is that right?
His uncle, who was an executive in the industry, but we weren't really doing them a favor. They had the talent.
Yeah, original flavor was good.
We weren't doing them. They hired us as their attorneys.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
You understand?
Yeah, they have two hot groups.
Ultimate House.
He was.
From day one, actually.
Yeah.
From day one, yeah.
That's pretty cool. I mean, I didn't quite know that they went in with 3 groups. I always thought it was. I mean, I knew Original Flavor.
Right.
I didn't quite know Future Sound was where they were.
And I mean, if you go back to Original Flavor's second record, their first single, "Can I Get Open," features a young Jay-Z on
it,
in which he murdered them on their own shit.
Crazy, yeah. I mean, I even remember. I mean, the weird part is I even remember the other guy in Hawaiian Sophie. You know what I mean? Like, I do. I remember the video and being like, oh, there's another dude.
Yeah.
And thinking to myself, like, oh, there's 2 dudes in Jazzo.
Right.
I didn't really put together that wasn't the case.
Right.
But, I mean, he stood out then a little. I mean, I'm not going to say, like, his one sentence stood out, but I remember thinking to myself, oh, the other guy has a weird voice.
Yeah, well,
because his one sentence is so much different than Jazzo's voice.
Yeah.
It's, I can't call it. It's like, what is he? Does he have teeth? It sounded so weird. So
yeah, Hawaiian Sophie, man. That's crazy.
I love that track.
I love that track too. As a matter of fact, when that song came out, I hadn't been in the industry yet. I was still in law school, and I was like, damn, everybody's fucking getting a deal. I need to be back in New York.
Yeah. Jazzo, I bought that tape. Same day I bought Stop the Violence.
Stop the Violence?
Really?
Yeah, same day. I remember Music Plus. Love that record, too.
Right.
I love all Posse records.
You gotta love the days where you looked forward to spending money to buying music, man.
Oh, yeah.
So good.
I mean,
no question.
And even if what you got sucked, you'd really try to cherish that one gem on it. It was a full experience. Where now music is so fucking random, man.
Yeah, it's really crazy.
You only spend money on records like by accident.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I spend money on my broadband so I can take stuff from Now Right.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
That's all I really do at this point. So I mean, just so we maybe fast forward to the part that we want to talk about most is you watched them also disintegrate to a point as far as Dame, correct? Or you watch things get weird.
When things started to get weird, I wasn't in the fold. I hadn't been working with Damon, but that at that point, you can from working with them from day one, you could actually almost see it happen because Dame really, I think, put his heart and soul in creating the blueprint that was Rockefeller.
Right.
Like, he's the first person to ever mention that word. Like, he put his heart and soul into it. You know, not saying that Jay didn't help him build that, but Jay was an artist.
Yeah.
And everything that he relied on with regard to his career, he relied solely for. I mean, Dame was his manager and his label.
Right.
Like, literally.
Yeah.
So Dame, he
uses everything.
But at the same time, Jay is so brilliant in terms of how he observes people, how he moves through life, and he's always going to get his.
Right.
And it was just foreseeable that at a certain point, Dame's personality and how he responds to certain people in public would become a liability to Jay-Z, who's eventually trying to, you could see that, dude, I need to make my brand undefeatable, so I cannot have any burnt bridges.
I mean, do you see that Dame trying to make himself a star in its own right? That doesn't seem like a Jay-Z thing now. Now that we know more about Jay-Z and he's obviously our Jesus in hip-hop, we now see that someone like Dame, I don't even get how they were friends now.
Right.
It's a very weird thing to me because it's like, well, here's this guy who won't let the cool speak for itself. Jay-Z's a person who obviously won't come out and tell you he's cool. He will let you say he's cool, which is why he wins.
Jay-Z will tell you all the brands that he's wearing, which
to make
cool.
you cool.
All the cool brands.
Yeah, the cool, anything. He'll have the coolest girl. Right. He'll let you say it.
All the brands you can't get. Actually.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Dame, on the other hand, will tell you how cool he is, and he's making these brands cool.
That's right.
Exactly.
So two completely different approaches, and I just don't see how they mesh now.
Right.
But when you do these early meetings and Jay-Z's in them, or they're speaking of Jay-Z, and then you eventually meet Jay-Z and you watch that come together, do you sense that he's going to eventually get resentful about that approach?
Like I said, Jay was the artist, and if you know one thing about artists in the industry, artists are like the most selfish people on the planet.
Right.
It's all about them. And as Jay's star is rising, and knowing how they interact with people in business, you could see where at a certain point Dame's rise. You're looking at Dame's rise, but Dame pissed so many people off that everybody was like, I can't wait till this motherfucker crashes and burns.
And now you see those videos of him like walking into conference rooms and just like,
is just painful.
Like you can get cussed out in business. You get cussed out.
Right.
I mean, it's gonna happen.
Yeah.
But Dame was a master of just tearing you down.
Like he relished in it.
And you'd be like, motherfucker, fuck you. You just created another enemy. You know what I mean?
Right.
Not like I fucked up. Oh shit, no, dude, I fuck you.
Right.
Like once you get that, it's like you don't want to.
Is this like he says fuck you enough that like the words don't mean anything anymore, and he doesn't get how serious people may take this?
Like you're saying it becomes like his bit. Like his bit is that he's going to go crazy.
Right.
Like,
that's his thing. But like he wouldn't just make his point; he would humiliate.
Yeah.
Oh.
and being humiliated. I mean, at a certain point, any man, they can stand but so much, and
especially when you start to realize that there's a dissension between him and Jay-Z.
Exactly.
Right. I'm sure people are just like, "What are we doing? Let's just go directly to Jay-Z."
Exactly.
He wants out too.
I'm sure it's exhausting.
Yeah, I mean,
watching that video is exhausting.
If you go back, I mean, Dame would publicly say, "Fuck Leor." You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Fuck the guys that were, keeping his lights on. Arguing. I mean, it was a mutually beneficial relationship. Yeah. But at the same time, like, dude, once you're not hot, you're out of here.
Did you ever work with like Irv Gotti at all, or with any of the producers like Swiss Beats or anything from Rough Riders? Because
no, I've had some meetings with Irv, and we've worked from across the table on certain projects, but never upend or that close with Irv.
We met with him.
We met with him once.
Okay.
Yeah,
and he told us that like the three camps that were within Def Jam, were the three ones that were like really like making waves, which were Rockefeller, Murder Inc. and Rough Riders. That Leor and all the executives were trying to make this competition between the three of them, so that they each would like hate each other.
Right, but then Irv and Dame had like a sort of competition, that was an unsaid competition of who could be the bigger asshole.
Right.
And so like. Basically, he was saying like
that's actually kind of dope.
Yeah, like he wouldn't like. Get
in
on the
retrospect,
phone.
It's dope.
well, I mean, they had each other's backs. Like Irv was like the most like I think he can be credited as the person most responsible for bringing Rockefeller over to Def Jam.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so like that. I mean, I would imagine that would create a relationship. Dude, they get it. Like,
and the tour they did together is one of the most successful hip hop tours of all time. Right?
Exactly.
The Def Jam Survival of the Fittest. Right?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
It's a pretty successful tour.
Yeah,
considering at the time tours weren't what they are now.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
And so we're just gonna jump from relationship to relationship. A record that I love from growing up, and obviously I liked it on its own because I like battle records and I like weird metaphor records, like every white kid in hip-hop.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
But the one that I sort of really honed in on, and coincidentally, the dude becomes one of the most famous rappers of all time, is the Mad Rapper song, "How to Rob" with 50 Cent. And I know that your history with D Dot and that camp, like. Number one, what the fuck is D Dot thinking? I mean, and this is an honest question. He has this persona D Dot where he's this successful producer behind Puffy, and he has almost like a pretty good situation, and then he comes up with a funny alter ego, and then what? Like, I get it because I love the Mad Rapper,
sure.
But like, I'm trying to figure out what was it that was he wanting to be a star himself, and then this was putting him over, or did he assume that everyone postmodernly would understand D Dot is kind of joking around?
Well, I guess working with D at that time, one of the things that was unexpected was how much his Mad Rapper persona would take on a life of its own.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So he realized he had a good thing. This was a joke and this was his shtick.
Right.
But people were willing to pay money to hear the Mad Rapper.
Yeah.
And I remember specifically at the time, Sony, like they needed that. They didn't have what Universal had.
Right.
They needed that, and they figured the best way they could get that was recruit some of I think they had the track masters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And they needed more of that kind of like team. Mm-hmm. That team that would just knock out hits. And Derek was that that person that could do it. And one of the things they offered him at the time was like, dude, we definitely want to build an album around the Mad Rapper. They would throw in. You got to understand, this is the 90s.
The industry's the best time ever.
90s. You do anything that has legs, dude. You're getting money thrown at you.
Yeah, you have a resume with Puffy's name on it.
Yeah,
and
it's the same thing today.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Just throwing money around.
Throwing it. And it's dollars. $1.
Right, $1.
Exactly. It's like a strip club now.
Coins.
Shouts to Eve.
Coins. Shouts to Eve. Yeah.
Sacagawea coins.
Yeah, literally just throwing them out.
I mean, and of course, Puffy wants to exploit the Mad Rapper persona as much as he can.
Wait, Puffy wanted to exploit somebody?
I know. Hold on.
Sorry. No, that was a term that they used. He didn't mean it for real.
You see, when I say exploit, you do understand.
Yeah, we're joking.
I'm talking from the legal sense.
Worry. Yeah. No, just because we're really close with Black Rob.
Yeah.
He serves his coffee.
Robbie, yo. So I mean, these deals that are coming to you, like I mentioned, when you're in the industry, you're walking down this path. And you never know which door is going to be that door.
Yeah.
So Derek's like, why not do an album?
No, sure.
Why not do
the fuck not?
These features as the Mad Rapper?
Yeah.
So, did any of those guys in the Hitmen feel that Puffy was getting way too much credit at that time?
Well, at a certain point, everyone wants to be the master of their own ship.
Yeah.
And at that point, it's funny that you mentioned that because around that time that labels like Sony were courting Derek,
right?
Puff was like, "Nah, motherfucker, I get first dibs."
Yeah, you would think so.
I get first dibs. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
But arguably that would create tension because most of those people at the time in that camp were very close.
Sure.
Right. So going back to what you were saying.
About Hitman being resentful.
Yeah, well, yeah. So when these opportunities started coming to the Hitmen, because people would be like, okay, Puffy's too expensive, but there is a lane for some of the Hitmen.
And it's everyone's throwing so much money around.
Danger,
right? obviously. I mean, you can even go back to Teddy Riley.
Exactly.
You can go Missy Elliott.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah. So Puffy creates this empire, but at the same time, the reason why you do these deals when you're that creative is to ultimately run your own ship.
Yeah.
So once they start seeing these opportunities, and Puff's like, nah, motherfucker, you got to pay me first. Of course, there's resentment.
Right.
Yeah.
Of course. And then Puff is also, working in his camp, he ultimately reserves full creative control.
Yeah.
So, whatever you could have like the finished project.
Right.
And he'll come and be like, that's right. Like, that's right. And then, dude, you got to give him some of the publishing now. Yeah. You know what I mean? Right. So it's like...
And so how does 50 get involved in that record? Because he's at Sony.
He's at Sony. He's at Sony at the time. I think at the time he was signed through Trackmaster.
Right.
Yeah, right.
And and
they better have his bail.
And of course, I think Donnie Einer and Tommy Mottola at the time were like to the Trackmasters, dude, do your best to bring D-Dot over. So they were like, throwing money at D-Dot also to get on this 50 Cent record.
Yeah. And so and that's
because I don't think people would have paid attention to that record, but because it had a recognizable brand.
Yeah.
The Mad Rapper
100%.
was more recognizable
100%. I remember I heard
than a 50 Cent.
Yeah.
Which at the time, not only, dude, no one knows who you are, but
Nothing.
50 Cent at the time is the worst fucking name. For a rapper. It's a horrible name for a rapper.
And that's hard when you're on a song with the Mad Rapper. To stand out as a worse name.
Exactly. And then, but going back to your D-Dot is such a charismatic person. Like if you know him, like the dude is such a good-hearted dude, and then he's just so fucking talented. Right. So if you know D-Dot and everybody in the industry knows D-Dot, then like you'd have to be fucking warped to have beef with D-Dot.
And I sensed that when they create a song together,
right,
and only one of them gets almost shot.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, it's so funny that the song's by two people, but yet 50 Cent caught every minute of that flack from that song. Which is
I mean, some people, kind of threw some flack at D-Dot,
really?
For the record.
Right.
And he was like, dude, I'm D-Dot. And they're like, all right, cool.
Right.
But D-Dot, I mean, like, he wasn't actually saying anything. It was all 50.
Yeah, it was all 50. I mean, but guilty by association.
Right. Exactly,
I mean, more than association. I mean, this is at the beginning of the record. He's almost saying the same thing. It's just he's doing it in this crazy voice.
Right.
And I think he just gets away with it more.
He's ad-libbing it.
Yeah. And then 50 has street history. I'm sure that people were like, he might not be joking. I mean, there's a lot of shit that probably happened, I assume, in that. And did you, because of your relationship with them, was 50 when he started going through all the deals and stuff, were you involved legally with them at all?
I wasn't involved legally with 50, but at the time, during that period, I represented producers that were producing records for that, Power of the Dollar album.
Yeah,
this is
like Sony record.
pre like 9 Shots 50.
Right.
So I did work with producers that were like, and it so happens that the producers that I worked with, Peter Panic, the other guy's name, DJ Shah, who was at the time 50's DJ, and one of the producers who actually produced for the shit, I'm forgetting my records right now. Anyway, so Peter Panic, the guy who had produced the Regrets for Jay-Z,
right,
was producing a record for 50 when in the hit studio when they got attacked by Murder Inc.
Yeah, crazy.
So not directly, but I was kind of involved in that whole history of the making of 50 Cent.
And, I mean, we'll go on to another side now. What do you? I mean, it's good to know someone who's has so much history in hip hop. What are you listening to now? What feels genuine now? What is? Because we were talking about it with a couple guests already. It's just we don't know what horse to follow. I mean, we don't know if Lupe is coming out with a record.
No, who cares about that?
We don't know if B.O.B. We just are so fucking confused. I mean,
these are terrible examples.
No, it's not. These are two extremely relevant rappers right now.
Exactly.
Listen, they're bad examples, but I'm telling you, this is who we're being told to listen to.
That's right.
And we're not listening. I think it's a bullshit, direction.
Right.
But I'm saying that we don't have really a horse to bet on.
Right.
I don't think. And I don't think Kanye's our horse. We don't have. He's bringing up names like Das Effects and names that we obviously all would have freaked out about. You know what I mean?
But I'm not listening to Das Effects now.
Oh, I am. Later, guys. Later, guys. No, I'm listening to Lords of the Underground. I only take one rap group from the sewers. Mine's Lords of the Underground. Like, what is it now that you? What sense?
I rep Lords of the Underground.
I still rep them. Just when I'm telling people my favorite rap song,
man.
Funky Child.
Funky Child's a great record.
So what? So like when you hear music now, what is there any sense of that feeling you used to get when you went to Coconuts or whatever record stores here?
I mean, it's so hard because there's so much music, and I don't have the time to listen to everything that comes out now. I don't have the bandwidth, so I guess whatever creeps into like. Into my sight and into my view, and that resonates with me. So I listened to the B.O.B. album. I thought it was a good album, but it was like I'm not inspired to play it again.
Right.
It's a great album, but I'm not inspired to play it again. I hear a song by Big Crit, and it's like I'm doing the scrunch face. I'm like, okay, I don't know if this is the next horse per se, but I'm going to play some of his music over and over again because it resonates with me. So
and has there been something recently where you get that feeling again where you legally want to be involved? Is it almost like I got to call that dude?
No, you know what? There is, man. There are artists that I hear. There's this one particular artist. The kid is in high school, and his name is Dime a Dozen. And he's got like a lot of videos up. He does his own music. Yeah. Nobody knows who the fuck he is. But I listened to him one day, and he's like strictly like high school hip hop. The kid is clean cut. He doesn't curse, but he's nice.
Right.
And I feel what he's saying, and particularly because I have teenage kids.
Yeah.
Sure.
I'm like I can fuck with this. And I like it, and I feel good morally. Not from like anti-up record, but like just like
really Will Smith
promoting something that I like that I feel is credible.
Right.
So like when I hear someone like Dime a Dozen, I'll be like actually I might be working with Dime a Dozen.
Oh, nice.
But I listen to this kid. I'm like, Clark, do you hear this kid? Clark is like, yo, let's fuck with it. So there are these sparks of like talent that come up, and it's like I really want to get involved with that.
Do your kids listen to Wiz Khalifa or Currency, who's now actually a Rockefeller,
my eldest son,
imprint?
My son is 13, so he's heard them playing in the car, but he's like more into like the New Boys.
Okay, really? Interesting.
Yeah, he loves the New Boys, like the whole like.
That's so wild.
And I learn a lot about now as a parent. I'm learning a lot about acts that I ordinarily wouldn't be on my radar through my kids.
Right.
Funny, I'm doing that because I'm dating someone 6 years younger than
me. but you hear when you're dealing with a younger audience, it broadens your perspective.
But what does the New Boys say to you? Like
they don't say anything to me.
Okay.
They don't say anything to me at
either.
all.
Right. Yeah.
My son plays it like I'm that parent now. Where when he's playing it in our home, I'm like, dude, can you turn that shit down?
Yeah. No. Now I know how my parents felt when I played Young Black Teenagers really loud. They're not even black, Jensen. They're not even black.
But my son likes it.
Right.
And I like that he likes something.
Sure.
And, it motivates him in the way he dresses and the way he dances and how he's carrying himself. And I'm as I'm watching him, form his, teenage personality. I'm like, okay, he gets a thumbs up.
So, God, I wish rappers were like this. I wish every rapper went to law school at GW or Georgetown.
No, Georgetown.
Because it's just like
being like Ice-T.
That's what I'm saying. He's great. It's. I mean, it's a kudos to you in understanding. Growing and getting older and having children and understanding a larger scale, which I think has hurt hip hop so much. Well, like being affected to a point where you're only in your lane, and to see other lanes, I just wish other rappers. I mean, Jay-Z obviously. There are other people who are able to do it, but very minimal.
50 Cent and Soulja Boy are teaming up. Classics like Mean Muggin'. So I mean,
the other day on we had an explosive show the other day on the Combat Jack radio show.
Yeah, it was Sean Price.
It was Sean Price.
So great.
And Math Ragazzino, but Sean Price just killed it. And this kid, Math, is like, the kid is 25 years old. I don't know if you've listened to any of his material.
I haven't, other than your thing.
He's incredibly gifted in terms of talking about matters that he has no business knowing about. So he has one rhyme that says something like, I move the crown like William Griffin Jr. Wow. Like he's 25 years old. So I know it's going over the heads of his audience.
Like when Bieber talks about sex.
Right, yeah.
But the fact that, Sean Price kind of like indirectly raised this kid.
Yeah.
It's like, so I think, what the game needs, like, it's kind of like, like black young men.
Yeah.
They need fathers.
Wow.
Right.
Hip hop needs fathers. Hip hop needs people who have lived through this, who are still passionate about it, who still care about it, and sees it more as like our culture, something that affects our lifestyle and our families.
Right.
You know, and something that I give that much a fuck about that I will put my foot in somebody's ass if they're disrespecting the game.
Yeah.
And I don't
Right.
mean that from like I look at kids sagging, and I might be digressing, but when I look at young cats sagging, I'm like, they don't have a father in their house. Because my kids, I promote them to like hip hop, like they hear me curse. I don't censor my shit.
Yeah.
Right.
But if they were to sag with their ass out, and I would put my foot in their ass.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. No,
And I'm proud of how my kids are growing.
That's great.
You should be. That's
Yeah.
It's a good move. But I will talk about why I think you're an amazing dad. I'll tell you why. Reading your blog, it's funny because you'll go from these hip hop stories.
And I got to tell you what I did the other day, which I'm actually proud about.
Oh, go now, you
but
please.
my wife doesn't know, and I'm a little nervous. My son is 13 years old, and we have a house in Crown Heights, Brooklyn, and I smoke weed.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
And one of the things that I want to promote with my kids is just, dude, honesty. Like, you know, shit happens. And as kids, you do stupid shit.
Yep.
Right.
I don't want to hear about it from somebody else. I don't want to have to represent on your behalf, and you're not giving me the full story. So I definitely want to open up that rapport.
Yeah.
So, you know, I come in my car, I've got, you know, smoke. My kid's like, why you smell like smoke? I'm like, I don't know, the basement is smoke. Like, I'm giving him all this bullshit, right?
Right.
So I'm like, dude, he's 13 years old, and he looks me in my eyes now, and we're having these conversations, and I don't want to feel like a hypocrite. So one day my wife wasn't around, and I pulled him to the side and listen, dude, I got to talk to you. I just want you to know that I smoke weed.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not saying you should smoke weed. I don't want you to smoke weed. You can't smoke weed.
Right.
But I smoke weed.
Right.
And I just want you to know that, because I don't want to be fake. I don't want you to find out.
Right.
And I don't want you, my wife doesn't smoke and she hates it.
Okay.
And I don't want you to find out from her.
Right.
I don't want you to I don't want to do anything that doesn't feel like I'm being a stand-up guy around my son.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah.
Does being honest on the internet play into that?
Well, I mean, it definitely plays into that.
Yeah.
It definitely plays into that. I mean,
They're going to read it.
honesty is premium, dude. Like,
Yeah.
there's so much bullshit out. There's so much bullshit, and thank God for the people that are able to pull it off.
Yeah.
I can't do that.
I hope you would say that to Dame if he walked up to you and was like, "So I was on the internet the other day."
I was going to say, in the same vein, the cool part about being on your blog is, as a nerdy kid myself, seeing how much you're into some nerd shit is kind of dope. You read comic books.
I love comic books.
You read
man.
comic books. He's
Love
into
comic books, man.
superhero movies. He sees almost every movie.
Yeah,
I don't think there's a movie
yeah.
you miss.
Yeah, a Catwoman.
Yeah, thank God. You know,
Geely,
Geely.
yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
you know, is like where like it's so funny. You talk about honesty on the internet. Like, there's not many other. I don't think does Byron talk about shit like that. I don't think so. Right?
He talks about working at like Walmart or whatever.
Yeah,
Right, yeah.
his prawn. You know, his
Yeah.
prawn
Yeah, right,
addiction.
yeah.
Like, but it's cool to I mean, you really, it's a website. I mean, we don't keep just praising him over and over, but it's a cool site to go to because
Thank you.
I don't just
I
have
haven't
to read.
updated it in a while. I've
No,
kind of fallen
but
off
you're doing a
like-
radio show and
Yeah.
shit, so I understand. But yeah, I mean, it's cool. I mean, what comics are you reading now? Anything new?
I love Daredevil.
Yeah.
Always loved Daredevil. I love The Walking Dead.
Oh, so good.
Walking Dead is crazy. I've kind of fallen off over the past couple of months. American Vampire. Have you read?
No, I haven't read it.
American Vampire is sick. It's actually in each issue. It's 2 stories.
Mm-hmm.
And I forget who the writing and artist team in the first half of the
I
story.
do know this.
But the second half of the book is by Stephen King.
I was gonna say Stephen King's the other part. I
Exactly.
did know that. Yeah, I did know
And
that.
it's
It just came out on hardcover.
I did it. Excellent. Pick that up, dude. That like American and now I'm geeking out. But
Yeah, no, I'm gonna
American
get it.
Vampire is sick.
Well, you know, a hip hop podcast is nothing without comic book references.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
So yeah, I mean, what we usually do here is sort of talk about your favorite hip hop song of all time.
Okay.
We didn't really hit you up about it before, and it's the stupidest question ever because we've all went through phases and stuff. But if there's something that sort of has resonated with you even at this time, to just say, oh, you know what? When I hear this record, when this record comes on my iTunes or on my
I
iPod,
do have a favorite. Like,
Okay.
And sometimes I question whether this is my, still my favorite, but
Mm-hmm.
it still resonates so much to me. Is Deep Cover.
Wow.
by
all right.
Great song.
Dr. Dre and Snoop.
Yeah, it's a great song.
That's
It's come up on the podcast a couple times.
That's an insane song. The bass line behind it. And I
Yeah.
remember at the time when that record first came out, I wasn't driving, but like the car that everybody had at the time was like the Pathfinder. the
Right.
Jeep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
And I was like, dude, the day that I buy my first car, I'm fucking going to blast Deep Cover.
Yeah.
You know, and a couple of years later, I buy Escalade, and the first thing that Deep Cover is that song, man.
Let's put it on for a second. The other thing too is it's the one song that has a cover that I like.
Yeah,
Fat Joe and
it's
Pun.
So good.
Yeah, it's like
98.
That rarely happens.
You guys are also forgetting about 50 Cent and Tony Yayo.
All right,
which exists.
Oh yeah, it has a weird intro, right?
Dude, listen to that bass line.
It's so good.
And you know, the thing about Snoop is at the time, Snoop was such a game changer.
Yeah.
Like his whole flow was so unexpected, unpredictable, and no one fucked with the West. At least from my, no offense.
No, but I didn't fuck with the West.
Yeah, and I was like, if this is what they're putting out, then I fuck with it.
Yeah,
right.
No, it was an amazing record, and this is seeing him really walking from his mother's house. Right, that was the G Thing video.
Oh, this is way before that.
Yeah,
This is
his
Snoop's
first song.
Yeah, it's just the first song.
So I mean, it was crazy to not even know who the dude was. I mean, once you saw him in G Thing, I think the story came together.
Yeah,
it was
right.
a skinny young kid.
Question.
I mean, it was like, oh, now I get it. And the weed thing, which is brand new for hip hop, really,
right.
as far as admitting it on record and talking about it.
You're right, man. Because before then, a lot of rappers are like, dude, I don't smoke.
I don't fuck with weed. I mean, Dre says it on the NWA record.
Right.
So Snoop has the weed hat in that video.
Right.
There was a lot of things that just started to become skateboard white culture.
Right.
Yeah.
And then it really started speaking, because then you have Wu-Tang, which was basically a group for white kids.
Yeah.
Right.
There was a lot of crossover, and I think Snoop and Dre's connection was probably one of the first bridges, one of the first real olive branches
definitely.
to mainstream
This song is like
skateboard
song
culture.
is like the first in what they would release as a game changer.
Yeah, it's crazy.
No question about it.
And one of the better soundtrack songs.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I was just thinking about that. Like, Deep Cover, the movie was like, but at the time it featured Lawrence Fishburne, and actually Larry Fishburne. And when he was Larry Fishburne was at the time my favorite actor.
Yeah, well, he's my favorite porn star dad.
Yeah.
He is that. And you
shouts to Montana.
Shouts to the other Bumper. What's it, Pumper?
Brian
Pumper. Shouts to Pumper.
I thought you were talking about the bumpers that are on her ass.
No, that's
just bumps, really.
Yeah, no shouts to any Accutane.
Did you see the cover of the was it As Is magazine?
No.
She's on this cover.
Oh, really?
And like I actually this morning when I was dropping my kids off, I stopped off at a newsstand, and it's the first time I saw it. And like I've seen it on the internet, but I saw it in real life.
Yeah.
And they airbrush her ass.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say they like embossed it.
No.
They indented it on the cover. That would
be kind of ill.
That would have been great. And I wonder, I wonder what kind of other soundtracks. I mean, and Jeff and Eric might have ideas on this too. Like, what other soundtracks? I love the Judgment Night soundtrack. I thought that was incredible. That's another skateboard reach out. If I've ever seen one where they took, these groups like, God, I don't remember off the top of my head, but they would take like Dinosaur Jr. and Teenage Fan Club, and each song was paired with a rap group.
Right.
So like, I think Teenage Fan Club was with De La. And then I think Helmet was with someone, and I know House of Pain was with someone. But what other soundtrack songs, Jeff and Eric? Like, what do you remember? Anything that kind of jumps out at you?
I mean,
Less Than Zero.
Yeah, Less Than Zero is a good one.
You remember the soundtrack?
Oh, yeah, please. That's
Public Enemy.
Public Enemy.
Hate to admit this, but I did buy the Bad Boys 2
What's on
soundtrack.
that?
For the Jay-Z song?
No, that was the...
that was Shake Your Tail Feather?
Yeah, that was the whole, Diddy executive produced.
That was well executed.
Which one?
Loon was on there.
Loon was on there, man.
No, I like the Juice soundtrack.
Oh,
Juice.
Oh, yeah.
Juice is a good one. Yeah.
Know the Ledge?
What's that?
Know the Ledge?
Yeah,
no.
Juice. Yeah, Juice is Know the Ledge.
Know the Ledge.
Yeah.
I love Know the Ledge.
I
love that
Uptown
song.
Anthem by Naughty by Nature.
Yeah,
exactly.
that's a great
That's
song.
a good one.
Yeah.
It's a really good song. I'm trying to think what other ones I really liked in soundtracks.
Who's the Man?
Oh yeah, love Who's the Man.
Who's the
House
Man
of Pain title track.
Pain,
Oh right,
Biggie, Party and Bullshit.
Party and Bullshit. There's who are the guys that play the like villains in House Party?
Full Force.
Full Force.
Full Force, man.
They have a song on the Who's the Man soundtrack.
Full Force, man.
What
Props
the
to
fuck? Bow-legged Lou, right?
Full
I'm
Force,
just dropping
man.
knowledge right now.
Props to Full Force, man.
What do they do? They wrote. I know they were writing for boy bands.
They were writing for
Really?
boy
Yeah.
bands.
Yeah.
They've made millions, dude.
That's so good to hear.
Even in this, in the new millennium, they've made some songs and hits behind the scenes.
Bow-legged Lou, y'all.
All right,
That is a name.
Can we just go over a few things real quick about some of the stuff we saw in Complex?
Okay.
The third base situation.
Yeah.
Give us some insight into what those guys were really like at a time when it was really transitional over at Def Jam.
Yeah, we're going to rapid fire some names.
Okay.
And we could just go through short stories, things you like.
Yeah.
Pete Nice was laid back.
Yeah.
Just taking it in stride. I think he was more of like a basketball guy.
Okay.
And
and baseball.
And they put them together. So he's like, yeah.
He's living up in Cooperstown right now.
Yeah, he curates the Little League Hall of Fame.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Does he really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, he does.
He was a laid back guy. He was like, whatever, I'll do this. And, and Search was really the guy that was like, yeah, I'm a rapper. I'm an MC. He's like, I'm hip hop. I got the high top fade and the whole nine.
And the thing I took most, I worked with Search a little. Okay. So the thing I took most from your article was his free usage of the N-word.
Yeah, man, I didn't like that shit, man.
Because to me he said it's something different. To me, he was telling me, because I don't. My story is very weird. I was signed to Interscope for a while, and I was a white rapper 10 years ago.
Okay.
And when the money was great.
So when it was raining, right?
Yeah, when it was raining. Search would make it feel like he never said it.
I mean, when I put that out there, I didn't want to hurt the guy because I like Search. I like Mike Barron. I like Search. And I could understand, like, the dude was accepted at the time. Yeah. He was really accepted in the community.
He paid dues.
And he definitely paid his dues. And I guess, the brothers he hung around, with, they used it freely and they never corrected him when he said it. So they probably even encouraged him the same. And so I understand, like, I'm not saying at all that he's a racist. It's just like,
totally.
I just hated when he would use that word.
Yeah, I understand. I'll throw out Foxy Brown. One of the other things that I loved about the complex thing that you did was admitting, I guess, to an extent, especially because I was in college when this record came out, how that song with Jay was really the breaking point.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't really remember it that way.
Nobody knew who the fuck Jay-Z was.
No, white kids especially.
No one knew who Jay-Z was.
That for as much as we all loved Reasonable Doubt, it was off radar.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I know a lot of my friends who are even hip hop fans were like, he's kind of a fake Nas.
Yeah, and you got to understand, like, New York at the time had all of these, like, lyrical rappers that came from that same rapper, that genre, that, I'm ice cold, I'm a hustler, I dabble in the drug trade, I'm so cool, I was, like Big L. Like Big L. You had OC, you had all, smooth
the hustler.
And like, that was what New York was producing. So at the time, being involved in the Reasonable Doubt album, it didn't really stand out to, like, I was like, the guy is amazing, like, these records are dope, but this is the same shit that I'm hearing over here and the same shit I'm hearing over there. And Jay-Z, out of all of these guys, was the most unknown.
Yeah,
he was the most unknown out of that genre. Foxy was kind of like, she was like Nicki Minaj right now. Yeah. Everyone, like, she just had, what was it, 4-3-2-1 with the
Cannabis LL beef.
Cannabis LL, she killed that shit.
She killed it.
She killed it, and like, everybody wanted a piece, of Foxy. Like, Puff wanted, like, Foxy was that credible female MC, and her, like, she had done an R&B record with Case.
I'd always heard that she's the reason the firm even got their looks.
Probably.
Really?
Yeah. Probably.
Wow.
Like, Foxy was that bankable artist.
Yeah, she
was the future, and for them, for Dame and Jay to nab that song, I think was a coup. Yeah, because if you listen to Reasonable Doubt in the club, you can't really listen to every record.
Now you can, because we've immortalized it.
Right. Yeah, but still, like, okay, so if you're on a date and you want to dance, you're going to fucking dance to Brooklyn's Finest with your chick?
No.
Like,
yes.
Oh, yeah. Well, we realized on our earlier podcast that
down-ass chick.
Well, we realized on an earlier podcast that Eric has went on a date with someone who was in the Big Pimpin' video.
Really?
So that was nice.
That's nice.
So
was it Gloria? Was it Gloria?
No, it wasn't. No,
I made the same joke.
Gloria did her thing in that video.
Yeah, she did. Yeah. One last thing from Complex before we move on to the MySpace questions. Yeah. The Busta Rhymes, Put Your Hands Where My Eyes Can See.
Incredible record.
The producers,
so good.
The producers of that didn't get anything.
Not on the back end. Not on the back end.
Wow.
Well, Seals and Croft.
Seals and Croft. I mean, Buster was, a multi-platinum artist at the time.
Right.
And it all comes down to leverage, so these guys, literally Buddha, one of the, the second half of that team, Buddha and Shemella Prophecy, he came, like, he hadn't produced anything. Yeah. This was his first record out.
Yeah.
And when the sample came up, when the sample came up, and, like, naturally, Buster's like, I'm taking 50, and Seals and Croft are taking 50. Like, dude, they didn't have any leverage.
Yeah.
So.
That's crazy.
It's tough.
Well, what we do now, it just feels stupid. I wish we could talk about more shit.
How much time do we have?
We got like 10 minutes.
This is fun, though, man.
Yeah.
Dude, listen, this is not going to be the only time you're on here.
No, I know.
Because we didn't even get into groups that, I'd love to find out.
No, but actually,
I'd love to bring up names.
I want to go back to what you were saying. Yeah. So, not only going back to Ain't No Nigga, not only was Foxy bankable, but that was the, like, I remember being in a club with my girlfriend, who's now my wife.
Yes.
And it was like one of those, like, famed industry parties where champagne is flowing, Flex is dropping bombs, and everybody's having a good time and looking good and smelling good and all of that.
Right.
And they throw that record on, and the fucking place goes crazy.
Right.
Like, and not just the dudes and like the hip hop posturing, but the chicks are running. They're running, fucking breaking ankles to get to the dance floor.
I DJ'd in college. I went to SC, and that was the record that
made things happen.
Girls liked it.
And people were like, who is this? And this is the Foxy Jay-Z record.
Yeah.
And so just even from like, the impact of that record.
Right.
That's the record that went on the Nutty Professor soundtrack.
Yeah.
That's the record that caught Def Jam's attention.
Yeah.
Because at the time they signed to a shitty deal at Priority, and Irv was like, dude, if you're not fucking with this guy, if you're not fucking with Jay-Z and Rockefeller, at least fuck with this record.
Right.
And that record was going back to soundtracks. That was the runaway breakout hit from Nutty Professor.
They used clips in the video, right?
Exactly.
Yes,
well, they shot the video twice.
Right, I remember 2 times.
Yeah.
City is Mine is my song.
Actually, you know what? I hated that song.
I love it now.
But I hated it at the time. I love it now. Yeah, I love it right now.
Because that song.
Yeah.
I don't know why. Maybe it's because he's championed New York so much.
Well, you know what it is? I think
it's the early Empire State of Mind.
Right.
Yeah.
Right,
I mean, it's his first.
But it wasn't his sound.
Right.
Also,
no,
no
one wanted to hear it at that time.
His second record. And this is what I now I love that record, but what I hated about in my lifetime, what I hated about the record, it was so apparent that they were trying to catch some of that puffy shine.
Oh yeah, and it's super uneven. It's an uneven record.
Right.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, he was out of his lane, which is now coincidentally he has no lane.
Yeah,
he could do a song with Grizzly Bear, and at this point, Tegan and Sarah.
Might.
Yeah, he may.
Yeah.
He may. So what we do now? This feels so trite.
Let's be trite.
This feels so trite. What we do now is we go over to a website that happened when we were all making a lot more money in the music industry, called MySpace.com.
Yeah.
And we take these questions that were originally written for teenagers to ask other teenagers on the MySpace page.
Okay.
It's questionnaires. We ask these questions and we look for answers that are somewhat real. We're looking for jokes, but at the same time, like, we want to hear the answers to some of these because for some reason in the late 90s, early 2000s, kids cared about this.
Right.
Okay.
Now they just care about texting nude pictures back and forth.
Right.
But at the time, they wanted to know some of these answers. And Jeff will hit it off.
Yeah. Would you rather be a fish or a bird?
A bird.
Is there you like flying? I mean, you're a superhero guy like me, so it's an easy
flying
answer.
is the coolest. Like, I have dreams now that I fly.
That's an easy answer. Some of these questions will eventually show what year they're from. This is one of them. What CD is in your stereo currently? So I guess that would probably reflect MP3s or whatever.
Actually, what my
now.
card deck.
Yeah.
I got a lot of shit in my. I checked this morning when I dropped my kids off. I have I have a lot of bullshit like that.
It's New Boys.
Like, I just actually, you know what? Like, Dipset, Diplomatic Immunity, was in my system, and then I pulled it out to listen to a friend's CD yesterday. All right. So.
Well,
so Diplomatic Immunity.
I'm ready for their comeback as well, which is coming.
I love Dipset.
Which is coming.
Yeah, Dipset. Do you email?
That question sounds
I
horribly
do.
2000.
I do email.
Yeah.
I do. I mean, I love, like, I hate, like, I don't read a lot of emails.
Right, right.
But I do love emails because I remember when I used to have to type on a fucking typewriter.
Oh, Lord.
Emails is a godsend.
What 3 things can always be found in your refrigerator?
Good one.
Ketchup, fruit, like apples, and water.
All right. Healthy.
Yeah.
Mine's Lunchables.
Right.
All 3 of them are Lunchables. Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
What is your favorite Harrison Ford movie?
Please say regarding Henry Combat Jack. If Combat Jack says regarding Henry, I go home. I fly home.
Harrison Ford movie. Does it have to? Does he have to be in the movie, or is it his movie?
No, it's just he's in it.
He could be in it.
Apocalypse Now.
There you are.
All right.
There you are. Larry Fishburne.
Yeah, Larry Fishburne.
Apocalypse Now.
Yeah, no, that was when I first realized his name was Larry when I watched that on VHS.
That's actually my favorite movie of all time.
Really?
Oh, It's my favorite drama of all time.
Of all time.
Yeah, it's mine too. My favorite drama. Is there a... yeah. These are horrible.
Go with it.
Have you ever kissed someone over 30?
Yeah. No, but actually what's cool is when I was in law school, I worked at a firm in DC, and the partner that I worked for, his assistant was in her mid 30s, and I was in my early 20s, and she had a crush on me, and she took me to a Sade concert, and afterwards we went to her home and made out. So
nice.
That was
if I can add this up, it was 10 years ago. She's 45. Is it Blue Cantrell?
No, it's not
Thank you so much, guys, for listening to Hype Man. Combat Jack.
That was my
that was your foray into the older cougar land.
Yeah, that was it.
Guys, this is. Listen, I could do this interview. I could do these.
We're done?
8. Yeah, I could do these 18 times. This is the easiest one for me to do because if there's any time that we could talk about Jazz-O, Lords of the Underground. I mean, if there's a time we can nerd out as
DOS Effects.
Listen, DOS Effects. If we can nerd out harder, this is going to happen again.
Yes.
I greatly appreciate you coming.
Likewise, man.
And we love that you found a home on the internet, man. Because it's a cool thing to sort of have something different.
Can I tell you how I found it? I mean, before we wrap
up,
please.
Totally.
He's definitely a polarizing figure, but right after I left the music industry, I was like, I'm done with this. It was like really like I just wanted to get rid of anything music related music industry related that was part of my DNA. I landed a book deal with Bloomsbury Press. The book is called Bling, the History of Hip-Hop Jewelry.
Oh, yeah. Totally.
Was doing a lot of research online about jewelry and decided I wanted to get some images of like what Dipset was wearing at the time.
Yeah.
And accidentally came across Byron Crawford's site.
Yeah. Wow.
Like I had heard talk of blogs,
sure,
weblogs, and I'm coming from the world of brick and mortar, so I was like, I have no time to figure out what the fuck a blog is.
Yeah.
And I ran across his shit where he was shitting on Dips. I think it was Jim Jones's album or something like that.
Yeah.
And like he was calling him a weed carrier, like all these terms that I had never heard before, and I was like, oh shit. I've discovered America, dude. This is, and so shout out, cats hate when I do this, but he opened up my world and made my transition from my prior to career to whatever the fuck it is that I do now.
It's pretty cool to see someone who had been there at the beginning of hip hop and the cracking there, and then the cracking at the internet, and just cool to see that you're adapting is something I think all of us hope to do.
Yeah, man, we got to do it, man.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. My name is Jensen.
I'm Jeff.
And I'm Eric.
And we thank Combat Jack. Check in next week. We'll do it again. Thanks,
Internets.
All right.